Welcome back to Bob and Weave with Rob and Steve. I've been waiting 2 weeks to do that.
Dude, I don't think there was a better version of that possible.
I just don't know if I have the baritone for
Bob
it.
and weave.
Oh, man. Good to see you, Steve.
Yeah, you too, man. You too, man. Thanks for having us to get together again today. Yeah. Sorry, I'm running a little late. I was at a service right before this, so you were right,
You were
right in
handling
the
business, right?
yeah, yeah, totally. But yeah, what's going on, man? It's Friday. March Madness just started.
Did you watch any of the games?
Not yet. Somehow I've stayed productive. What about you?
I've watched a lot of the games.
Yeah.
I've been traveling this past week. I was out at a thing in Michigan learning mortgage stuff. And so I would get back to the hotel and not have anything to do. And I would just watch the games and do whatever. So I saw, what was it? Oakland beat their big upset. And then there was a couple of the games that I watched. I watched the first four. So, it's always fun. I love March Madness. It's my favorite month of the year.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild to see UK got upset.
Yeah, that's who it was. Good old Calipari. He looked pretty unhappy at the end, as of course, but usually they'll pay a little bit more respect to the upsetting coach, like a congratulations, like you did a really good job, but he just looked like mad at the very end, shaking his hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw a stat, something like the last 4 seasons in a row, they have only won one game in the postseason each
Oh,
year.
UK?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been rough ever since. I mean, they were the first team to do the what was it? They were doing the one and dones. So like you have to go to college for 1 year, and Calipari was our first guy to really buy into that and like tell kids, hey, you can come here for 1 year and you'll be done. But yeah, so now it's very different in that that doesn't work anymore.
Why do you think that doesn't work?
I think it works if you get the 5 best players in the country.
Mm,
But if you're getting, 7, 15, 21, and 50, that doesn't really work.
that makes sense.
But
And
he was getting 5 of the top 10 players in the country when he first started doing it.
it makes sense. And there's not a lot of motivation for the players to kind of get cohesive, especially sometimes it even takes a couple years, right? Playing together. So,
Right. Yep. But I think if you have the talent level, it makes sense to do that. But now that, it's just different. And it's also, there's a reason that the NBA does it in a series and rather than just one game in bracket style, because there's a lot of chance that goes into these games. You can have an off night in basketball and it just happens. And the NBA, that's why they played a 7-game series, because you don't have to do that. But that's
right.
what makes March Madness so fun, is like Oakland can just shoot the lights out for one night and then they're on to the next round. That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
I saw that guy, I forget his name, the guy who scored all the points. He had 35 points, 2 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks. Like the only thing he did was shoot. That was it.
Have you seen this kid on Nebraska's team?
Oh, yeah. Twice against Indiana. He just absolutely lit us up.
Yeah. Kaizai Tominaga or whatever.
Yeah. Tominaga. He's wild. He's got a lot of entertainment value to him as well. So if you get to watch a game with him in it, I highly recommend it.
Oh, yeah. They're playing today in
Are they?
just about an hour. Yeah, I'm going to try to catch that game.
Okay. They call him the Japanese Steph Curry.
Yeah, and he's number 30.
Yeah, he doesn't look like him when he shoots, but he makes ridiculous shots like Steph does.
Yep. I'm looking forward to watching it live. I've only seen highlights, so looking forward to seeing him play. Should be exciting. I was surprised to see IU didn't make the draft this year, or the bracket this year.
I would say we were pretty close. And like in my mind, it was between us and Michigan State, and they chose Michigan State. But that was probably a good choice because we didn't end on a good note. We had a good last 5 games of the season. So we went on a 5 game run, then we lost in the Big Ten tournament. But our team was just so up and down. And I don't know if you knew this, but Indiana was the worst 3-point shooting team in the Big Ten this year,
No kidding.
which is like, Indiana is supposed to be like where we take pride making our jump shots, and nobody could hit the side of a barn. Like, it was insane. Like,
Yeah. Did Indiana State make it?
I think I'm trying to remember if they did. I don't think they did, but I know that they were close. I remember seeing their name.
Yeah, they got that kid on that team. Oh, I don't even know his name, but that big guy, Big Country or whatever, Big Smooth, whatever his name is.
I don't know. I'll have to look it up. Didn't see him.
He's got those big Horace Grant glasses. He's
Nice.
like 300 pounds. He's
Oh
huge.
wow. Is he as tall as Zach Edey?
I think he's 7 foot.
Okay, so he's 4 inches short.
Is that right?
I think Zach Edey is 7'4", 7'2", something like that. He's a monster.
His name's Robbie Avila, aka Cream Abdul-Jabbar.
What a great nickname.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, 240. Okay, he's 6'10", 240.
Now that you say his name's Robbie, I kind of remember seeing some highlights of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, man. Well, I mean, we've loved basketball our whole lives, and so it's only natural that we're going to talk about it over the next couple weeks as the tournament progresses.
Yeah. I
Who
got
do you?
UConn in my bracket. They're my
Win?
winner.
Yeah, I think I
Couldn't
did
pick.
too.
Yeah, I can't pick Purdue ever.
Me either, dude. Yeah. Yeah, I went to IU for a year and then transferred to Purdue, finished out there, but I've always been like an IU fan. But I don't follow sports too much anymore, and I definitely don't follow Purdue sports. Indiana basketball is just so much more exciting than
Yeah.
Purdue. Since we've left though, since we've graduated, it does feel like Purdue's been better a lot more than IU has.
Yeah, definitely.
But back in the golden days, in the good old days, IU was always smashing Purdue in basketball.
Your freshman year when you were there, we were terrible.
Yeah.
That was after the Calvin Sampson fiasco, and Eric Gordon decommitted or he went to the draft or something, and then we were just had a bunch of scrubs, bunch of
Yep.
guys that were on D2 teams. It's like,
Yep.
and slowly rebuilt from then. And I think it was my senior year. We beat Kentucky, the Watt shot, and the whole town went crazy, and we were a basketball town again.
That's right.
That's one of those things where I remember exactly where I was standing when Christian Watford hit that shot. I will never forget.
Where were you?
I was in my house. I don't know why. There was like 3 of us in the living room. And as soon as it happened, I went out on my porch and just screamed. And then like you hear a bunch of random dudes all over the city just, ah.
You're in Indy?
Yeah. No, I was sorry, at my house in Bloomington.
Oh.
And I had to go to work. I was working at Brothers that night. Like the game was over at 6 or something. I had my shift started at 8. And I showed up half an hour late. It's like, forget it. Like
That's awesome, man. What was I? Oh, so you were in Michigan this past week, like this week or last week?
I got back yesterday afternoon.
Okay, you were there all week since Monday.
Yeah. Well, I actually got there on Saturday because my sister is at vet school at Michigan State. So got there Saturday, did St. Patrick's Day with her on Sunday. And then Monday we hung out for a little bit and she drove me to my conference, which is in Pontiac, Michigan. And I was there Tuesday, Wednesday, flew out Thursday morning.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. How was the conference?
It was cool. It's United Wholesale Mortgage, and they offer courses for originators, and real estate agents can go too, just to like learn about their systems or some kind of sales tactics. They offer courses every single week, and they fly people out for them. And so I took one that was building relationships with real estate agents. So it was just more like the tools that UWM offers to help their real estate agent partners. So it's cool to learn those tools, but also like I work with a handful of people in that building, somewhat frequently. So it's good to meet those people in person, kind of develop that in-person connection so that they know I'm not just some guy on the phone. I'm a real live human being with a family and a heartbeat and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So you were managing remotely some of this some of this renovation work you got to do, huh?
Yeah, we actually put it on pause while I was gone, just because I'm the only one that's at home all day. So they couldn't come at like 7 p.m. and get it done. But yeah, I don't know how much did we cover about the bathroom reno in our last episode. Do you remember?
I don't think too much. I don't think too much. I think we just kind of referred to it, but yeah, I'm definitely curious to kind of hear how you discovered there was an issue and kind of what you had to do to resolve it and how you got it. You know, was it an insurance claim or like what? How are you handling it all?
All right, we'll start from square one. I think it was about 3 years ago. I'm in a townhome, so I share walls. I don't share top and bottom. Uh, 3 years ago, my downstairs bathroom that shares a wall with my neighbor, the tiles in the bathroom were warm. We had some guests over, and they were like, "Why is your bathroom floor so hot?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I went and felt it, and it was like hot, hot. It wasn't just warm. And so we turned off our water to see if it was our water. It was leaking out of the bathroom. That didn't fix anything. I asked my neighbor if he could turn off his water and see if it changed anything, and it started to affect. It started to cool off, and so his water heater was leaking underneath our bathroom, and he had somebody fix his water heater. Told me everything was good. Our floors weren't heating up anymore; they were cooling down normal temperatures. So, okay, everything's fine. And then I think it was in February this year, 2024. We noticed some moisture damage on our wall, and so I was like, I didn't know what to do about it. It's like, how is what do I do with this? So I just need to call somebody and get to come out and fix it. So I called you, and you said, hey, just pull off the floorboard and see what's going on in there. And so I pulled off the floorboard, and lo and behold, it was just mucked up drywall, just disintegrating because it was sopping wet. And so from there, I made a claim with my insurance. Just said I got to get somebody to fix this before it turns into a huge issue with like mold in my whole house or something. And they came out and said the affected areas, what was going on, and basically, so I had to do remediation, which is getting rid of the moisture, and then you can start doing renovation. So the first thing I did is I actually know somebody who does remediation. I got them out here and started. They basically took out the drywall and dried everything off, which was a whole issue because it's a lot of work to just take the drywall off and then have a dehumidifier in there for 3 days and decontaminate everything and make sure it's contained. So in case there is mold, that it's not going to spread to other parts of the house or get stuck in your vents, stuff like that. So it's more than just, hey, get rid of the moisture. It's a pretty big process. And I found out through my insurance, if I were to make the claim on my insurance, that it's a pretty significant hit on my insurance, even if it's not my fault. It's not like car insurance. On homeowners insurance, it's just if there's a liability or not. It's not, is it your fault or their fault? So if I
Right.
open a claim on my insurance, which I had actually just switched insurances to save a little bit of money, like 2 weeks before this all happened. And so they said if you have a claim within your first 6 months of holding a policy, they will review your policy at the end of the year. And they said it's fairly likely that they will not renew you because you like switch to them and open a claim. And whether it was intentional or not, they see it as the opportunity for being intentional and they can just cancel it. So that's issue number one. If they were to keep me, my deductible, my minimum deductible, my next claim would be $5,000.
Wow.
Right. So my current one, for reference, my current deductible is $500. So now it's
Yep.
like if I have to pay this stuff through insurance, it's $500 out of my pocket. They'll handle the rest of it. But if I ever have any other claim, it's $5,000. Which case I'd be like, I'd most likely look into doing it myself. We're getting a loan instead of going through insurance. So I'm trying really hard to not go through my insurance through this. So I found out, contacted my neighbor after I realized this was a big issue and not just, hey, it's a little bit of moisture damage, and got a hold of who his insurance was. And I thought he had opened a claim already. And so I was just calling in to get a status on the claim. And they said, no, he never opened one. And I was like, okay. And then they said, would you like to open one? I was like, I didn't know I could do that, but sure. And so I opened a claim on his insurance as the affected party. And this insurance company's been absolutely miserable to deal with. It's Farmers. I don't care about throwing them on the bus because they've been so bad to deal with. They just don't return my calls. Don't give me any status updates. Tell me just email the stuff here and we'll figure it out. And then after getting frustrated enough, I contacted the Department of Insurance to kind of figure out, all right, what can I do if they don't, do any of this stuff? Do I take them to court? And so just like in the mortgage industry, there's certain like dates and requirements in which you have to meet. So they had to respond to me within 14 days. They responded to me on the 14th day,
Wow.
and they have to make a decision within 45 days. And they're now past that 45 days. And so I've like filed a complaint with the Department of Insurance to try and get them, to get moving and find out that they're out of compliance. And then I won't have to worry about whose fault it is or if it's negligence and stuff like that. But I guess to get into more of the liability portion of it, that's a whole separate claim than a standard homeowners insurance claim. So you do a homeowners insurance claim, and that's just like, I have a claim. Can we please open it? Liability doesn't matter. If there is a liability facet to it, then you have to file a separate liability claim. So right now, what they're doing is you're just going through the regular claim to see if there's something that should be covered or if it regularly should be covered in a homeowner's policy. But then if it's not covered in that, you can still say, oh, my neighbor was being negligent. They should have known about this and they did nothing about it, and it caused my property damage. So that's the liability portion of it, which in my opinion, I don't have physical evidence of this, but I have, talked to my neighbor about it. They said that there was like a pool at the bottom of their water heater and they didn't do anything about it. Like, that's visible evidence that you have damage and you
Yep.
did nothing about it. So that's the liability. That's negligence on their part. So it's, if and when it ever comes to that, they would, and we went to court, they would have to lie under oath saying that they never saw that there was a pool in their water heater. And if they did actually never see it, I'm not sure if that still would put them as negligence or not. This is also the whole separate thing with subjugation, which is a new word that I learned. So if I file a claim with my insurance and then farmers ends up deeming that it was my neighbor's liability, farmers can reimburse my insurance, and that's called subjugating. So farmer or my insurance fronts all the money, finds out it's farmer's fault, they'll reimburse all the money to my insurance. But even with that, even if the liability is on my neighbor and their insurance, I'd still have the same consequences on my new insurance moving forward. So
Mm.
that's why I'm trying so hard to make sure that I get their insurance to accept blame up front for it, because if I have mine, I'm going to have a terrible time getting insurance moving forward.
Yep.
So yeah, we have the remediation is all done. It's been done for a little bit. We're starting the renovation of it, and now like we've picked out the tile and what we're gonna do. We have to replace the entire shower because it was right next to the shower, and it was one of those prefabricated showers. It
Yep.
wasn't tiled before, so it's just like you pick it up and it's a whole big piece, and they just chopped it up and threw it away.
Yep.
And those are way out of style and just they're not good showers to begin with. So we're getting a new one. And so we had to pick out what different styles and how that works. And then the other thing that we talked about extensively was what type of sealant we use. What was the method that you told me about?
Oh yeah. I mean, when you're tiling a shower, you have a ton of choices, but kind of the two contemporary or the most common two right now that I know of are the Curdy system and then just a traditional mortar bed. So either way, you're
Is it
using mortar,
Schlegel?
the Schluter Curdy
Schluter.
system kind of is in addition to that mortar to give it a waterproof um, kind of seal. So eventually a mortar bed's going to fail and water gets through to the subfloor. But with the Curdy system, you've got an additional layer of waterproof there.
Yeah, so I had to talk to my renovation guy about that Curdy system and what they wanted to do. And their big argument against it is that the backing of it is foam. And so
Mhm.
it's not as sturdy as if they were to do a mud wall or concrete around it, stuff like that. So that's eventually why they decided not to do it, because they just decided it wasn't going to last as long. Because if there's any it's much more likely to get damaged than a concrete or mud wall. But that was a big point about how do we keep it sealed and make sure moisture doesn't get in or out in between into my floorboards or my framing. Oh, that reminds me one other thing. Um, there was some moisture damage on my neighbor's wall, like on the back side of their drywall,
Mhm.
but I can't make him fix his drywall. And so if that moisture sits there and starts to grow mold, then my wall is going to get mold on it. And so what we did is we put up like a moisture barrier, which is really, it looks like plastic. They just put up plastic behind it. And so we did that, and then we're going to build the wall on top of it, build the drywall on top of it. But it's kind of silly that I can't, he has something that's going to make his stuff much, much worse and possibly affect me, and we can't make it happen. So he has to fix it.
Yep. I mean, it seems like his insurance would, if they were doing the right thing, they would have one guy come in and kind of repair it all at one time.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's interesting about his insurance. Because when I filed the claim with my insurance, they came out and did an inspection right away. It was within like 2 days. And so when I did it with his insurance, they still have not come out to do an inspection. Like I can send them pictures from the remediation and stuff, but they have not physically come here to talk to me.
Weird.
Yeah.
That
Real
is
quick, are you getting any like a delayed video from me or anything?
a little bit, but it says that finished video won't be.
Okay. Because on me for it's like 30 seconds behind.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll live with living in the past.
I stopped noticing it after a while. That's really funny.
All right.
It looked like a Japanese movie, just dubbed.
All right. So
So,
yeah, that's the latest on the bathroom. They're down there. I think they're finishing up the sealant and the mud, what they call it, the wet mop right now. So they're going to build the sealant and then they're going to build the tile and the framing and redo the drywall after that.
so these guys just all kind of sending you a bill afterwards, and then you're hoping that the insurance is going to be covering it directly.
Yeah, I'm being very transparent with them about what I'm doing. So they know that I'm trying really hard to get everything done with insurance up front. So they're kind of like, they're kind of kicking the can down the road with me. So they know that, I'm not necessarily paying anything up front and I probably won't be, but they know that if it comes down to it, I can still file with my insurance. So it's the goal one is a file with my neighbor's insurance. Goal two is a file with my insurance. And if I can't do that, then yes, I have to pay out of pocket.
And your neighbor's been all pretty cool about everything. Sounds like.
Absolutely not. No,
You know?
they've been miserable. I talked to them a few times up front. Oh boy, my camera just went out. I'm gonna switch cameras. Will it let me? Hmm. You can't see me at all, can you?
Mm-mm.
How about
There
now?
you are.
All right.
Yep, looking good now.
All right. So my neighbor has not been cool at all in the slightest. Um, when I first talked to him about it, he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get it fixed." And I saw them like, I guess his dad owns the property, and so I've been trying to contact him, and they've just been pushing off, like, talk to this person, talk to that person, don't talk to me. And once I opened the claim with insurance, they just said, "Don't talk to me at all, just talk to the insurance," because they were mad that I opened the claim on their behalf, even though they said that they were going to, and they never did. And the biggest holdup with the insurance company right now is that they can't get a hold of the insured, my neighbor's dad, who has the insurance. So that's what they're waiting on for everything, is to get a hold of him and get it done. But they're being really difficult. I don't know why, because it's very clearly that their house affected my house, and what do they expect me to do? Like they expect me to just remodel my entire bathroom out of pocket for
Yeah,
something that they caused. The logic
yeah,
just isn't
probably.
there for me.
Yeah, because it sounds like they're okay with living in that kind of filth, right? Or that kind of situation. So they think that, well, if you aren't okay with it, then you should pay for it.
I guess maybe that's their thought process, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
just devil's advocating. Well, that's crazy, man. So, I mean, so this is definitely like one of the not worst case scenarios, but this is just kind of one of those things that can happen when you own a property and like it sounds like you weren't even really using that bathroom too much. It's not like it's the only bathroom in the house, so it's not like it's preventing you from living there. But I mean, these things do come up, and insurance can be tricky to work around. And the fact that your policy and coverages front to back has been super advantageous, I take it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about it before this happened, but I learned about it very quickly, and it's not that difficult to learn about it. Um, I would say the one thing is like, you're going to get a dedicated specialist as soon as you have a claim that's going to talk to you. And if you have the right insurance, that they're going to walk you through what you should and what you shouldn't do, what's likely to be like covered and what's not. So, I mean, it's not difficult to learn all this stuff. Um, I guess the the take home from this that other people might learn from is just like, you have other resources, and lean on those other resources. You don't have to do all this stuff on your own. You have professionals there to help you, even if they're kind of watch their back first. They're going to give you the information to arm you to be dangerous and know what's going on, and protect yourself. And I have been following some boards on Reddit and Bigger Pockets about like people that are worried about how much should I be saving up for renovations and stuff like that. I would say number one, make sure you can cover all your deductibles. So ours was $500, wasn't too hard to do. But the other thing I heard from my financial advisors, you should keep about 1% of your home's value in savings in case something happens, for like regular maintenance, for renovations, whatever it is. So for us, it's about $5,000, and we haven't been there because we've had a couple other things that we've had to get fixed. So I think we're about $2,000 or $3,000. But I think that's the goal, is to have 1% of your home value in reserves in case something happens and you can't get it covered by insurance. And if we had $5,000 to cover this bathroom stuff, we could get it fixed. It wouldn't be pretty and it wouldn't be what we wanted, but we could get the whole bathroom back to how it should be and safe for $5,000. You
Cool.
are. What's that?
Oh, I don't know what happened there. So I want to switch gears and ask you about the car again. I forgot to
Okay.
ask you before we started recording. Have you made any advancements on a vehicle?
So I've kind of narrowed down what I want to do, and based on California law and benefits and stuff around here, I think it's a good idea to get a plug-in car. And so that's what I'm leaning towards. And so I've got 3 plug-in cars in mind. I'm a big leaser, so the two I'm thinking of are the Ioniq, the Hyundai Ioniq, and the Kia Niro. And that's if I lease one. And then I'm actually considering buying another Bolt, because since they had their recall, they're very, very cheap. Like I can get one for $16,000 and with
Nice.
like 30,000 miles on it.
Nice.
So I might just end up doing that because people are scared of the recall. But I know that if you have a brand new battery on your Bolt, like they replaced it through the recall, you're not going to have any problems. So I feel more comfortable with that. But I know a lot of people don't, because of the recall was so public. So that's the two that I'm looking at. I know uh, Hyundai and Kia have like kind of stopped production on leases for this month. They're not shipping anymore because there's such high demand for it. So I'm waiting till next month to see what happens with the Hyundai's. How do you pronounce it? Hyundai?
Either way,
Hyundai?
tomato.
Hyundai.
Hyundai.
There we go. No, I can't do that. So yeah, once that comes out next month, I'm going to see if the prices are different, because the prices are high right now because the demand's really high and there's not much supply. There should be more supply next month, and that's what people I've been talking to have been saying, that the dealerships will have more next month. So we'll see what happens there, and if the lease prices for the Hyundai or the Kia are not good, then I'm probably just going to end up buying a Bolt. Which is another tweak on that, is that I'm going to be returning a Bolt. So I'm literally going to get the exact same car, but the buyout agreement on my lease is $22,000. So it's, $6,000 higher than what they're retailing for. So I need to call these different dealerships and see if there's any trade-in potential. Like, hey, I can give you I can return my car to you. Is that any benefit to me getting a new car from you? And I don't know. I've never returned a lease to the dealership that I got it from, so I don't even know how that process works. I've always bought them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know this. When you lease a car, they will give you a buyout agreement at the time that you lease it. And so if at the end of your lease, your car is retailing for more than what that agreement is, you should buy it and sell it to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
One time I sold it to Carvana and I made like $1,500 when some, 19-year-old drove to my house and said, yeah, there's no scratches. It's good. And they drove off with it. I was like, okay.
Wow. So how do you check that when you're looking at a new Bolt or another one for 16,000? How do you know if the battery has been replaced? Is it in the service records in the Carfax?
Yeah, that's something that's going to be difficult to kind of verify, especially with the record of used car salesmen. So I'm going to have to get some kind of hard evidence, and I'm going to be very wary if the maintenance was done at the dealership that I'm buying it from. So if I get like I'm gonna one is that I'm going to make sure that I see how much the battery can be charged up to, because if it's not a new battery, it won't have as much chargeability or miles on it. What they call it, electric miles range. So I want to see what it looks like when it's 100% charge. And if it's over, I think if it's over 210 or 220, I'm going to know it's a brand new battery. But if it's at like 190 or right at 200, then I'm going to question whether it's, they put the right battery in it, or whether it was done properly, or whether it was done at all. And I am going to ask for Carfax and maintenance records specifically for that. If I can't get maintenance records that the battery is replaced, I'm probably just going to skip out on the car.
Yeah. Yeah. You just walk on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'm going to look at those vehicles here to see what kind of price. And is it specific to you said Bolt with a B as in boy?
With a B. Yep.
I'm going to look at those. I
Yeah.
haven't seen a ton of them here in Idaho. They're not as in demand here.
Well, you guys you have very different state regulations. Like, one of the big reasons that I'm into electric cars is that I get a discount on my electricity bill. So I'm going to save $50 on my electricity bill just by having this car. And there's other stuff as well. Gas is a heck of a lot cheaper, or sorry, gas is a heck of a lot more expensive than electricity. So I'm going to save money on gas. And so just those two things alone kind of, push me heavily towards getting an electric car. And I know that you don't have those kind of things in Idaho.
Mm-mm. Nope. We don't get it. The state of California gives you a pretty good tax rebate. The federal government gives them for like new cars, I believe.
Yeah, I won't be getting any rebates because it's a used car, but you get really good rebates in California for getting electric cars when they're new, and even on the lease end, you technically get it as well, but the dealership sees the rebate, they get the tax rebate, you just get a discount on your payment.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that makes sense. Yeah, I think when I was looking at them, you get that here in Idaho, obviously, because it's federal, but the prices are a little bit higher here because I think just because there aren't that many of them. So, I was looking at a Tesla, a new one, and it was, 36 grand. And
that sounds about right.
and 20, so it'd be net like 29. But when you're looking at comparable cars, it's still more. So, if you're looking at another sedan, like I was looking at the Model Y, I think, and if I'm looking at a Ford Escape or something that's new, they're like 24. A Tesla, I'd have to charge it here, and
Mm-hmm.
electricity is more. It's not super expensive, but I mean, it would cost me like $60 a month to charge a Tesla, and gas would cost me, and for a Ford Escape would cost me about $30 a month. So
Yeah.
it wasn't because I don't drive a whole lot, and gas is only $3.25 a gallon here. What's it there?
Gosh, I don't know.
6?
I can look up. I think we're still in the threes, but let me
Really?
check real quick.
Man, my whole time in California, I never saw it in the 3s.
All right. Oh, we are not in the threes. It is at Costco. It's 442. So regular gas station is like 490.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's not terrible.
it's definitely not the threes.
Yeah, ours was in the 2s. It was like 290 and 297 for
We definitely never saw twos.
the whole winter.
I mean, it's our fault. We voted for it. I remember on the
Yeah.
last election ballot, there was like, do we want to increase the gas tax and promote more electric vehicles? And it passed. Like there was no discussion about it whatsoever. So, okay.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
So I know we've talked about this offline. I want to hear you say it on the record. So you're staying in California. You have no plans to ever consider moving.
Bro, I went to Michigan this week.
Yeah.
It was 30 degrees the whole week.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a high of 32.
Dude, houses are also 130 grand in that.
I do not care. that everybody that I was talking to, like, yeah, but it was 80 last week. And I was like, what? Where did it go? Like, why is it gone? And then I land in Long Beach and I get there and it's like 70 and sunny and I'm carrying like two of my coats with me and I'm still in long sleeve shirt and sweatpants. And I'm like, this is the greatest weather on the planet. I'm never leaving.
Yeah.
Because I
uh,
mean, I just we've talked about it a lot. Like I considered like getting a house for $200,000 sounds really nice. Like I could do so much more with my money. And yeah, maybe I'd have to fly to go see the beach or something or drive 12 hours, but maybe move to Texas and you're only 6 hours away. Um, but I'm definitely not going to the Midwest. There's no chance.
no, no
Um,
chance.
I'm very open to alternatives for more affordable places to live, but weather is going to be such a huge thing for me. I can't live in when it's going to be, a high of 30 somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about that here a lot, especially in the wintertime. My better half brings it up a lot is how much the winter sucks. I'm in Boise, so it's pretty mild. We don't get a ton of snow. Um, but it's cold. So we talk about that all the time is when are we going to be able to afford a winter home, somewhere else. It's kind of tough with a kid, but who's in school, he's going to kindergarten this fall, but there's definitely that's an option for a lot of people to just buy a cheap house in a small town in Arizona or Texas or something,
Have
in
you ever looked into Puerto Rico?
my mom just sold a condo she inherited in Puerto Rico, and I was telling her, why don't you just keep it? I mean, she sold it for like $70,000.
Right.
It wasn't the best neighborhood, I guess, um, but it made me think about it. I started looking at Zillow, and it's like, dude, you're 10 minutes from the beach in most of the towns in Puerto Rico, even if it's not the nicest. So, I mean, I probably wouldn't want to be a single girl like moving there, but I'm I'm like, well, my brother went and lived there for 6 months and he had a blast.
Really?
And he lived in a not so great area, close to his the work he at the company he was working at, but and he was fine, um but yeah, I've looked at it a little bit. It sounds like you've probably done a little bit more research than I have.
I had one of my USC colleagues reach out to me and said that he wanted to buy a place in Puerto Rico because there was some kind of crazy tax loophole.
Yep.
Like, so if you make over X amount of dollars and you can make Puerto Rico your primary residence, you're taxed, you're decreased by like 30%, something like that. And so that's what he was looking for. He's like, I'm going to buy a house in Puerto Rico. I'm going to live there 6 months in a day out of the year. And then I'm going to have a house in California as well. Cause I mean, the business he was working with was really taking off. And if you make, I think it's over $300,000 in California, you're getting taxed like 48, 49%.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty ridiculous. And of course, if you're making that kind of money, you have a lot of options. And so that was the option that he was looking at. And I remember looking at houses in Puerto Rico. I was like, this looks really cheap and not so bad. Like it just looks like, a bad town in Florida.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it looks a lot like Florida. I mean, um, I saw Alex Hormozy was talking about that. He had somebody of his who you probably saw that too. He was flying to the States, almost every week to go to meetings in different cities and stuff. And because he was in Puerto Rico, the flights were longer. And Hormozy was like, "Yeah, you're saving 20% in taxes, but I mean, how much time are you wasting in the air? Could you just make more money?" And so this guy moved from sold his house in Puerto Rico and bought a house somewhere in the middle of the country or whatever.
Like Kansas
And
City.
yeah, and he paid, he paid 20% more in taxes, but the efficiency that he gained, he just got more deals done or whatever, and increased by 50%. So the taxes were kind of offset by him making more money. But who knows? Maybe if he
I think
just
that's definitely a good conversation to have with any kind of financial decision is how does this change your quality of life? And that's
Mhm.
kind of, I'm paying for the weather here and I'm totally okay with that. And yeah, if I'm flying to somewhere every week of the country, I probably wouldn't buy a house in Puerto Rico. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Even for the tax or the cost is whatever it is. I think quality of life is above pretty much anything. As
yeah.
long as you can make it work.
I mean, if you can live there full time and not have to travel too much, then I mean, then it's great, a great setup. I've heard about a lot of people going to Costa Rica and doing the same thing. If
Really?
in Costa Rica, the taxes are way lower. I think they don't have an income tax, and if you buy a house there and live there, you automatically get citizenship.
Wow.
So you get all the benefits of that. You don't, you're an expat now. You don't pay U.S. taxes even if your business is in the U.S.
Huh. Oh, I would still think that foreign nationals will still pay taxes. Maybe it just like eliminates the state tax because you're
Yeah,
technically not a resident of the state.
state income and federal income. You don't have to pay federal income tax.
I'm sure you have to pay something. If you're making money in the US, you have to pay taxes in the US. There's no way
Sounds
around
sounds like we got homework to do.
it. Okay. I'll talk to my guy and you talk to your guy or
Yeah,
girl.
and then I bet you this time next week we'll be looking at houses in Costa Rica.
That's where we're going to start our compound.
Yeah, dude. I Speaking of taxes, we just got raked over the coals on taxes this year, man.
Really?
Pretty rough.
Even though you're all self employed?
Yeah, well, we own like five businesses, so just filing alone is like $1,500, and then, um, you know, we didn't pay taxes throughout the year, like anticipated income tax. So we're basically getting K-1s from all these businesses, and we're gonna owe money. But we didn't, we only paid ourselves enough to like pay the bills, and then the rest of the money, that the rest of the income that the businesses made, we reinvested it all in the daycare pretty much. So it's not like we saved that money on the side for taxes like we should have. um, but the way we saw it was, well, let's reinvest it in the business now, because with daycare, it's like if you invest in it, make the place nicer, then you're going to get more enrollment and then increase the income. So the
Mm-hmm.
way we saw it was, let's just put it all in the business, increase the income of it, and that's how we're going to pay the taxes later. um, Kind of roll the dice, honestly. And but the alternative was, don't improve it or do it all yourself, like all the work yourself, which, man, we would have never been able to do it all. I mean, we hired a painter to do a 26-foot ceiling, a ceiling that's 26 feet off the floor. Can you imagine me up on a ladder painting the middle of
No.
an atrium? Or a scissor lift or something, just up there cutting around sprinkler heads? I mean, dude, we
Right.
hired that out, and but the place looks way nicer, but it was expensive. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so hasn't been my favorite time of the year, and of course, we had some surprises from the previous owner of the business who didn't pay certain taxes either, and we're kind of on the hook for it. So,
Have you reached out to them about that and kind of said, what the heck? Or
well,
no?
there's some intricacies with that. It's a little bit more complicated than that. We could argue over it. It's like 6 grand,
Mm-hmm.
but there was another complication that had occurred during handover time that honestly was also their fault, but it cost the business 9 grand, but the business was still, like, the income was still going into their account, kind of thing, before the handover was complete. So they kind of got shorted 9 grand, and we didn't get that money either. That was from like a government, an Idaho state subsidy
Mm.
for kids who, their parents can't afford daycare because they don't make enough, so they're kind of subsidized, and the state reimburses the daycare, right? So previous owners incurred 7 grand of costs, excuse me, for these kids, and then we're supposed to get paid 9 grand from the state, and then that didn't happen, so they lost 7 grand too. So you know it's just kind of one of those. I'm chalking it up to cost of doing business. I could go to great lengths to like fight all this and get that money and go to court twice for these two different things, but it's like, it's kind of just makes more sense to focus on the future and just getting those improvements done and get more enrollment and income coming in. So we've just sort of chalked it up to cost of doing business.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I mean, the cost of going to court twice and through that whole headache, is that really worth 6 grand? And the unknown of even if you'll get it after all that, so it's still a
Exactly.
maybe.
Exactly. It's a distraction, so it's kind of like, put it in the rear view and just focus on replacing it with even more.
Right.
income than what we had lost. So yeah, so that's kind of that was the tax story of our year.
Yeah, I haven't gotten mine quite filed yet. I got them all my paperwork, but they're a little bit slow. They like to triple check their numbers before they get them back to me. So I'll
Yep.
probably find out the next week or two because I think the deadline's like what, the 12th.
You well, it depends. If you filed an extension, it was March 15th for businesses for LLCs. The
Okay.
personal one is March or April. For personal filings is April 15th. So
I gave them all my stuff in January, so it's their fault if we didn't get it.
most CPAs will automatically file extensions for all the LLCs in their. They have software that just click of a button
Right.
files the extension for every LLC. It's a very simple form that just has the LLC name and the EIN.
They
And
told me there was less chance of being audited if you file at the end of the extension versus filing early.
makes
Because like they
sense.
have a certain that their thought was like they have a certain quota they have to meet, and if they meet their quota, they just audit a heck of a lot less people.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I could see that. The IRS though, I wouldn't be surprised because that sounds inefficient. So that yeah, sounds like how it works.
Sounds like the government.
I'm the government and I'm here to help. Well, Rob, I'm glad to hear the bathroom renovation is ongoing and you don't seem to have lost too much hair about it. And
It's going. It's going.
hey man, I'm with you. Oh, my son Rafi got a haircut today. Got a mullet, dude.
No way.
He's almost 6. Five.
Did he ask for that, or did you have to convince him?
Oh, dude, it's more like, hey, this is what to cut. This is how to cut it, and then they say okay, and he has no idea what's. He just calls them haircuts. He doesn't know. I still get to have a little bit of creative freedom with it. You know, he's not quite yet there telling everybody exactly what he wants all the time.
Doesn't have style yet. Just wait till he gets to kindergarten,
Yeah.
gets to make fun of kids, and he gets made fun of. I'm sure he'll have a say then.
Oh, I'm sure he'll get made fun of for the haircuts I'm picking. I mean, the mullets are back in style, so maybe other kids won't hate on them, but I think they're pretty cool.
You'll have to send me a picture.
Will do. Well, cool, man. Well, we'll get out of here and go watch that Nebraska game.
All right, we'll do. See you next week.
Next week, buddy.
So you made a comment before that you think only our moms are going to watch.
Yeah, Dad.
Yeah. So I'm going to speak directly to my mom on every episode. So
Okay.
love you, mom. See you next week.
Love you, Miss T.
Bye.
All right, later, dude.